Welcome to the Beats and Balance podcast, a space for conversations at the intersection of creativity, healing, and community. Each week, we sit down with artists, healers, and everyday people to explore stories of transformation, resilience, and the ways we use creativity to survive and thrive.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Beats and Balance podcast. I am joined today by Chantelle, a Black Afro-Caribbean and Latin queer artist, care worker, and founder of Black.Bird.Rising, a healing and artist sanctuary created to support the flourishing of Black, POC, and queer communities. Chantelle's work lives at the intersection of spirituality, plant medicine, art, and collective care, and is deeply informed by their lived experience as a survivor, a first-generation American, and someone rooted in diasporic and ancestral traditions. In this conversation, we're going to explore QTPOC spirituality, plant medicine as teachers, making art, surviving religious trauma, and what it means to be building a living, vibrant relationship with your ancestors. This conversation is about healing that is honest, embodied, and rooted in community, and I'm super honored to share this space here today with you. So we're just going to hop right into it. Chantelle, aka Neighbor, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, of course. I'm very excited to hop into this. For those that don't know, which is probably everybody, Black.Bird.Rising is right next door to my spot. So I see it all the time. And I've always been super curious just about like how it came to be. I don't know if you know this. I don't think you do know this, but I moved here with my wife and then she passed away from cancer shortly after. But when we moved here, the fact that Black.Bird.Rising was right next door, it was like a sign for us. The reason we moved to Philly was because she had to stay longer because her cancer treatment was not working. So we had to find a major emergency spot to stay. We were supposed to be moving back to New Orleans. And when we found this spot, we found the spot within the first day of looking. And then I realized like a couple weeks after we moved here that there's a queer, a queer health apothecary. It was like everything that we had been talking about doing ourselves. And it was like right next door. So it was like definitely it felt like a sign from the universe that all right, we picked the right apartment. We picked the right spot to land. So yeah, it was like a very meaningful thing for me seeing that place was there and that it was right next door. So yeah, I don't know if you know that, but it was special. And I think that things are always aligned. So it's crazy to now have you here on the podcast about a year and a half later. I moved here about a year and a half ago. So yeah, let's get started. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about who you are and your story and how Black.Bird.Rising came to be.
Yeah, I would love to. First of all, thank you for sharing that bit of your personal history and connection to Black.Bird.Rising with me. I think so often we don't realize how much our stories intersect and how you living out your purpose and your dream and your vision can be like a sign, an omen, an affirmation for somebody else in their own journey and their own experience. And I really need those stories, especially these days, as it feels harder and harder to live faithfully within the vision of Black.Bird.Rising with all the forces of capitalism, materialism, homophobia, transphobia, just violence in our world. It feels like trying to hold on to that beacon of hope and living into that vision feels even more pressurized. And so it's really encouraging for me to know that even just the visibility of being there is a sign of hope for people and a beacon and an affirmation, it's such a sweet gift to know that. Okay. So Black.Bird.Rising, Genesis for me, I guess it's a longer story, but I'll tell a more condensed story right now. So my whole life, I grew up super religious, very much into grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home and very spiritual my whole life. And also somebody who was closeted most of my life as a queer person, closeted as a trans person, and grew up in very much an environment where those things were seen as bad, wrong. And as a deeply spiritual person, feeling very connected to spirit and God, it was just kind of I was living in all this dissonance all the time about who I knew God made me to be versus who the church was telling me I needed to be. And that led to living with a lot of suicide ideation. But when you're a kid and you just think oh, this is just how I am. I'm a person who lives with suicide ideation. And also in a Caribbean household, you don't talk about mental health. You don't talk about because especially if your parents are immigrants, it's like, what do you have to be sad about? Like, we made all these sacrifices for you to have this life. You shouldn't have any problems mentally, especially. And so I didn't share a lot of my own despair and fear and worry and lived with suicide ideation, and got really good at masking and doing the pillars of success. Went to graduate school, graduated from my undergrad, was leading a nonprofit for my church, went back to graduate school, got my master's, my MBA, got married to a Christian, had children, was working, owned a home. And, I had this experience of racism, very visceral, like racist experience in a spiritualist environment. I won't say the name of the place because it's local. But I wasn't expecting to experience such harm in this place that was supposed to be a healing space. And it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because I was essentially holding on to like this life that I was supposed to have, but feeling all this despair inside. So in my mid-30s, I had a mental health crisis. And it really was just like all the agony, all the despair kind of came landing down on me in a really embodied way. And I had an experience of my first really suicide attempt. And in that moment, when I was like at my lowest, everything that I had been trying to like hold together started falling apart. My marriage started falling apart. My role in my spiritual community started falling apart. My business started falling apart. My friendships started falling apart. And I was looking for places where I could heal, where I wouldn't get further harmed. And I knew I shouldn't go to an institution. I was like, that's a bad place for me to go. Even though for some people, that's the only place they can go. And I respect that for them. And so I was looking for an inpatient place. I was raising 3 small children. And I was like, I need to go away for a little bit. Where can I go inpatient and get some like deep care? My mom came for a week and just was with me for a week. And I was looking for a place to go. And I couldn't find anywhere that would like hold me in my cultural identity, would hold me in my racialized identity, my queer and trans identity, and wouldn't do further harm. And I just knew I didn't have really more, I couldn't endure more trauma. And so I ended up creating like an inpatient, outpatient experience. I found a Black woman therapist who was into naturopath stuff and had my first experience of acupuncture. And I was doing all this work when I had like literally no capacity to try to like cobble together like a path of healing so that I could at least be stable enough to like parent my children. And in that moment, I was like, why is it in this hella Black city full of healers that like there isn't a space for me to go where I can actually receive medicine and care for myself that's going to feel indigenous and honoring for who I am and my values? It's just like, this should exist. And it could be also that I wasn't tapped into any of those networks, right? So it wasn't like, I also wasn't tapped in, but it wasn't easy for me to find either. And at that moment, that's kind of was like the seed of like, I want to create a retreat and healing space for Black, queer, and trans people where they can go and get care that feels aligned with their values, but also a space for us to dream and to build and to replenish ourselves, because there just weren't places like that. And it's kind of started me on that journey to Black.Bird.Rising.
I love that. That's wild. One, kudos to you. It's a lot. And also, Black really doesn't crack, because I don't know how old you are now, but I didn't think you were mid-30s. So the fact you're like, oh, in my mid-30s, I was like, wait, hold up. That's wild. And then raising 3 kids, that's also.
I'm in my mid-40s. I'm in my mid-40s now. It's a cool decade. It's a cool decade later from that.
Like what? That's amazing. But also, like, I completely
full decade.
That's amazing. I love that for us as a people. It's the proof of the magic. Because you definitely don't look like what you've been through. It sounds like you've been through a whole lot, and I definitely can resonate with a lot of that. My great-grandmother was a mother in a Pentecostal church, so I grew up in a very intense church situation, and also in a very homophobic situation, and also had to be closeted for most of my life. Like, I don't think I came out until late 20s. Was very femme presenting up until there, trying to look like my mama, which is a whole other trauma. But yeah, and also like being suicidal at like 10, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and thinking that that's completely normal. That was also my childhood. And so just listening to you talk, I'm just like, damn, it's crazy how, and also going back to like seeing the spot and being like, oh, this feels like a sign, and then hearing you talk and being like, there's so many resonance and similarities. It just puts me in awe of the universe in times like that. Because, yeah, I think the mission that you're on is something that's deeply needed. The reason why me and my wife thought it was so amazing that it was there, we had been living in places where there were not a lot of Black people, not a lot of queer people. My wife was a professor and she was on fellowship at a university in Massachusetts. So we were up in the middle of nowhere for a couple years. And then to come to Philly and be around all these Black people. I used to work in Germantown. Back in the day, I volunteered here before I went to college, and I loved it, but it was homophobic as hell back then, so I wasn't sure what that was going to look like moving here. Like, I was like, all right, we're moving to Germantown because I know it's hella Black, but I wasn't sure what the queer situation was like because I hadn't been here in like 10 years. So seeing that there was a queer spot right next door, like that blew me away. I was like, all right, things have changed. This feels like a definite sign that we chose the right spot. And I still definitely feel that way. So your mission and what you were doing is definitely deeply needed and appreciated by me, and I'm sure many, many other folks. How this started was also just like feeling like there is not enough spaces in wellness. There's not enough spaces in wellness, communities that feel affirming to Black, queer, Indigenous, neurodivergent. Like, if you're not fitting into some kind of like Gwyneth Paltrow group aesthetic, then, you know, you're kind of outcasted and this healing isn't for you, which is to me completely backwards. So I love all of that. Let's hop into a question I had about the name. How did Black.Bird.Rising come to you as a name? What does that symbolize for you?
Well, such a woo-woo story, actually, because, I have been talking to people about this vision for like a decade, right? So just in conversations with people in my life, like, I want to do this thing. I want to do this thing. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to be called. But when I turned 40, another moment of like everything that you've been building is falling apart. I'm a Scorpio sun. And so spirit loves to work through like the cycles of reincarnation with me. Like I've been like 20 different people. I've had people see me from like my former lives and be like, not recognize me because they're like, you don't even look like yourself. Like the person they knew me
Scorpio
to be.
rising.
And so in former life, I owned a cafe. Yeah.
Completely understand.
Exactly. So you know how it goes. Spirit's like, let's go again, reset. So in my past life, I owned a cafe with two other friends, a coffee shop, a Black-owned coffee shop here in Philadelphia. And I was pouring, that was actually one of my other dreams, was to have like since I was like 17, was to own a coffee shop, right? And so I do this thing where I think the dream is the destination. And Spirit's always like, nah, sis, this is just like to get you to this point, to pivot you around this corner. So the dream is not the destination, man. I could do a whole sermon on that one.
It's real.
So, right, I'm sitting with that one. I was really into this coffee shop, and essentially everything started falling apart, right? And I decided that I had, as a true child of Caribbean parents and immigrants, I have always worked like 3 jobs my whole life, like 2 and 3 jobs, pretty much my entire life since I was 17. And I hit this wall where everything was falling apart. I was fighting. It felt like I was fighting for my life. I was turned 40, and Spirit was like, when's the last time you've ever rested? And I felt like the exhaustion of like my ancestors, right? From my grandmother who came here to this country as a nurse, but needed to work as a domestic worker, undocumented, to my great grandmother who raised like, you know, all these children in the community without much support from her spouse. I felt this exhaustion from like ancestors worth of, I'm tired and I need to clock out. Like I just need to clock all the way out. And so I decided to use my divorce funds to fund a sabbatical.
Dang.
I was like, I'm going on a sabbatical. I'm 40. I'm going on a sabbatical. I want to know what it looks like to literally rest and play and just do the shit I want to do. And so that's what I did with my divorce money. I went on my first ever sabbatical, and it was supposed to be only a few months, and it turned into like 6 months of me. It took me a long time to detox from my commitment to productivity, my commitment to capitalism. Even though I was working in anti-capitalist business, I had a lot of stuff to heal. And in that time, I got trained for Liberation Reiki, which is started a lineage through Cyrus Sinai, who's a Black trans person, trans man. And he created this lineage of Reiki that specifically is about healing for Black, queer, and trans people, right? So I was like, this is my Reiki path. And so I got certified to level 2 in that. I started doing yoga teacher training because I was like, I want to do yoga at this retreat center. I don't know what it's going to be called. And I also started doing apothecary, like herbalism training with Empress Karen Rose in Brooklyn with Sacred Botanica. So anyways, I was in all these learnings, all these trainings.
I know all those folks, all of them.
Yeah.
That's another story for another day.
Right, exactly. Trying to do all the,
anyway,
trying to catch it all, get all the training. And then Spirit had to really stop me in my path and be like, whatever you think you need to become to be qualified to do this work, you already have the qualifications, like in your life. And my spirit guide is my great grandmother. We call her Mutta. Her name is Olga Elizabeth, but we call her Mutta. And Mutta is my spirit guide. And she really was like, on her birthday, September 20th, she said, I was in the middle of my yoga teacher training. And she said, stop all this foolishness that you're doing and start doing the work. Like, it's time to launch the space. And I was like, I don't even know the name of this. I don't even know the name of this place. What am I even doing? And Mutta was like, no, it's time to get going. So I had to drop out of all these programs. I was in the middle of trying to get certified to do all the things I thought I needed to be certified to do, qualified to do. And it was a Scorpio full moon. I remember I went outside by where I used to live by a fire pit. There was no fire going, but I was standing under light of this Scorpio full moon. And, as a Scorpio, that was really powerful for me. I was doing, woo-woo incantation stuff. And Spirit just came to me and said, the name of the place is Black.Bird.Rising. And I was like, okay, I have a name and I have my instructions to start. And I'm going to begin. It was really powerful, though, this image of a Black bird rising, because I love birds. I actually have a black bird that I got afterwards. I don't know if you can see it. I got a black bird on my arm tattooed after I got the name. I love the song by Nina Simone, Black.Bird. It just was like, I love everything black because I'm black. I love blackness. And so just thinking about how we are rising, actual blackbirds are super hell of intelligent birds. So yeah, so it just felt really fitting and right. But Spirit gave me the name. That's how it happened. Underneath a Scorpio full moon, of course.
I love that. Yeah, that was another, blackbirds are always a sign for me. That's one of my spirit signs. And so that was another part of the reason that I felt significant. But also that Nina Simone song is the best one.
Actually, I have a really funny story about being in New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
I was in New Orleans and I was talking to my friend about I love New Orleans. First of all, if I could live anywhere besides Philly, I would live in New Orleans. I was just telling my kid last night that I want to take my kids to New Orleans. It's such a beautiful place. My partner really introduced me to New Orleans and we've been a couple times. So I was in New Orleans and I was talking to my friend about feeling stuck about stuff in my relationship and what am I doing and what's happening. And we're sitting there talking and all of a sudden there's flock or whatever they're called. What is a murder? I think they're called murder.
Yeah, murder of crows.
Of black birds sort of in the sky. Murder crow, right. They're doing all this, they do their formations where they're doing this shit. And I was like, am I tripping on drugs right now? Or are you seeing what I'm seeing? My friend was like, yo, I see what you're seeing. I'm like, black birds rising. They're doing their formation. I was like, oh my God, okay. Spirit, sends me messages you're on the right path. Just keep going.
No.
So yeah, I do also want to say shout out for you to be here and you really want to be a New Orleans friend. Woo!
Oh no, I don't need to be in New Orleans anymore. My wife was a professor at Tulane, so that's why we were having to go back. That's where she worked. But I do love New Orleans. Shout out to New Orleans.
That's why you
but right now the South is not where I'm trying to be. Things are feeling. I'm trying to escape the U.S. at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, I do love New Orleans and the culture.
Yes,
and the
flee.
Yeah.
Yes, I do too.
Is.
But yes, I also too want to figure out how am I going to Harriet Tubman myself out of America.
Yeah.
ASAP.
For facts. Also.
Yeah, Harriet.
Also, who is my great grandmother, who's also my spirit guide. So shout out to Harriet.
Harriet's also my spirit guide. Oh, shout out to
my great
Harriet.
grandmother's name is Harriet, and then Harriet Tubman always is with me. So I feel double Harriet. And I always saw it. I know you have the altar to your great grandmother in the spot, and I always noticed that when I would come in because it would remind me of my great grandmother. So all the connections. And Brooklyn and Empress Karen Rose. I used to be over there all the time. Crazy small world.
Listen.
But crazy small world. Anyway. All right. So I know another thing that you're into is psychedelics. And that was super interesting to me because that's one of the things that has saved my life. Not going to lie. I'm huge. I'm mushroom buff. Used to grow my own mushrooms, know all about, I'm obsessed with all the different kinds. And so that really, like I like I mentioned before, like being suicidal since you're little, I think you probably can relate, but that lifelong struggle of like depression, anxiety, eventually catches up to you. And for me, it was like right around my late 20s, when I was living in LA, and I just was like catatonic. Like I couldn't function. I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't do anything. I was having panic attacks all the time, like shaking, like my body shut down. And a friend of a friend put me onto like micro dosing mushrooms. But for me, and I think for a lot of Black folks, like mushrooms was always like a white people drug. So like I was scared. Like I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Like, I don't know what I'm about to be seeing. But like literally from the first time I ever took it, it was such a spiritual experience and such like a grounding. Like it was like literally like the mushroom has a spirit and it was like talking me through it and was like, this is the feeling you're afraid of. Like, don't be afraid of this anxiety. Like you just gotta push through. Like it was like literally like somebody like guiding me through, and it changed my life. That was like 10 years ago now. But I love when I meet other Black folks that have come into the knowledge of plant medicine in that way, and people that are like going back to these indigenous practices and stepping away from like the medical industrial complex that is killing us instead of healing us. I'm also somebody that's had chronic health issues my entire life. My wife had stage 4 cancer, so going through all of that like just is thrown me completely against. Not to say like, if you should see a doctor and see both sides, but I have made a hard left turn to trying to get my body right in natural ways. And so like, tell me a little bit about your experience with that. How did you start facilitating with psychedelics? Was it something that was taboo for you also in your childhood upbringing coming up? Or was it something that you knew about from being Caribbean? I'm African American from upstate New York, but I know.
Taboo.
Yeah.
Yes. What? Taboo. Listen, all things were taboo. Any substance but the substance of the church was taboo. Yeah, everything was taboo. So it wasn't until my 30s actually when I came out. So when I came out, I was all about like, I'm just going to queer my whole life. I'm just going to queer my marriage. I was married to a white cis het man at that point. I was married to him for 13 years. We had 3 children. I was a pastor on a pastoral team. I was, but I really had contended with spirit for a long time to be like, please pass this cup for me. I don't want to have to come out and blow up my life and do everything. But I had just actually come through a whole consciousness raising process around my Blackness and being what it means to be Black and a child of the diaspora and to be raised in this country. So I knew what it was like to like go through a thing where it's like your whole identity was whatever. So anyways, I was queering my life. It was doing what queerness does, which is breaking your life open essentially and showing you all the alternate paths that you could take that will send you to liberation, literally. So I was on my liberation journey through queerness. And my friends that I started making friends with were people who, were friends with cannabis. And I had never done nary anything my whole life.
Cannabis has been a friend for a long time.
I was, yes. And I'm telling you, in my 30s, first time ever, period, with cannabis. And I was like, what is this magical plant? Who is she? She is that girl. And so when I started, I've been making it this long without medication, without cannabis, without anything, friend. This is what I'm telling you. This is why
the gates of heaven opened up before you.
My Capricorn rising was really, and yeah, the gates of, it was like, oh, yeah. I was really like, who is this girl and how have I made it without her for so long? So really cannabis was my first teacher, plant teacher, like really medicinal usage, okay? Ceremonial usage. And from there, my partner introduced me to psilocybin because they would sit with mushrooms regularly and do their own journey and process. And I was like really scared about it. Also, same taboo. But I remembered being scared about cannabis and how much cannabis was like such a beautiful indigenous medicine for me. And so I was like, okay, I am a person that kind of does a kamikaze thing around things. So I'm like, I won't do it forever. And then when I do it, I go hard. I'm just going to try the hardest thing possible. Like I'm going to do it as hard as I could. So I did my first time with psilocybin. My partner, was my was my guide. And I, oh man, I did a heroic dose. And, you know, I didn't know what heroic doses were.
First time out.
And when I tell you, Jess, yeah, that's what I tell you. That's me. First time out the gate.
0 to 100.
I'm just going to do the hardest. I'm just going to go. Yes, exactly. That's my whole life. Yeah, well, you know, it has its pluses and its minuses. And when I got that medicine, and in some ways it was familiar to the kinds of meditative transcendental states I would experience growing up in the Pentecostal church. Mm-hmm. So some of it was actually really familiar because I had all these like transic, like in essentially meditative, like out of body, alternate mind experiences in Pentecostal church my whole life. And so it wasn't super weird for me, right? Except for that what it did differently from those meditative states and like out of body, alternate mind states I had growing up in the Pentecostal church. What was different is that I felt, like you said, the companionship of the mushrooms of psilocybin, really trying to get up underneath so many things. And the portal of grief that I would feel come out of me, my artistry that was like essentially just on lock because of my need to survive, got popped right out of me. Yeah, it really unearthed a lot of things and healed a lot of things, but so much grief, so much sobbing. And from there, I would do journeys occasionally, do only in like really not recreationally, very medicinally, very ceremonially. I decided to try psychedelic therapy. My therapist knew somebody who does ketamine. Let's sit with you with ketamine. And I did that. And ketamine did not do me like psilocybin. She did me over real hard. It took me 2 years to integrate ketamine. Wow. But that one journey I had 2 years. It was people talk about psychedelic ego death, right? But what I experienced on ketamine was ego obliteration. So I became like not even a person. I was just like a speck on the sun. Like it blew past all my ego levels, psyche levels, straight to like clean slate. And I was not quite ready for that. So it took me about 2 years to integrate that. But as I had these experiences, I kept feeling like, you know what? I want to help open this up to other people. And so I learned about my Reiki teacher was somebody who's also certified to do psychedelics. And he mentioned a program where you could get certified to do queer psychedelic, like sitting with people, specifically queer people, in doing medicine work. And so I enrolled in this program and I got certified in doing queer psychedelics, sitting with ketamine. So I had a second time to sit with ketamine, and she was very different with me the second time. Very sweet, very tender, out in the desert in California. And from there, I learned about a psychedelic facilitation certificate for psilocybin. And then I did that for like 9 months and I got certified. So now I'm certified in queer psychedelics, sitting with ketamine and also with psilocybin, because I want to be able to do this with other people. And I love a certification. Your girl loves a certification. So I love to learn. Yeah. So that's how that happens.
Very cool.
Capricorn rising. I'm telling you, she keep me in school. She's like, nope.
Yeah. My wife was a Capricorn. I know exactly. A Capricorn with like 5 or 6 Scorpio placements. So if you could imagine, I understand the intensity. Yes. But also I think that's super dope. I think I don't know. I like that. I think for myself, like I'm drawn to people that have that kind of 0 to 100 attitude about life. Because for me, it's like we're here to learn. Like life is a journey. We're not here to play it safe. And for somebody that has a lifelong of anxiety, you get tired of that shit. Like it's just like at some point, something in me was like, we're not playing scared no more. Like I can't live like this anymore. And then it was like literally the same thing, 0 to 100, like from not leaving the house, being in the bed to like we traveling the world. So yeah, I love that. How do you have fears, or how did you push through the fears? Because I know what a Pentecostal upbringing is. Like we weren't allowed to celebrate Halloween because that was like the devil's holiday. So like everything is taboo for real.
Exactly.
And I was blessed because half of my family was not Pentecostal. So I had like some like, I'm gonna go over to this grandparent's house for Halloween and just not tell y'all. But I can't imagine like being super, super into it and then making the full shift out into queerness, into psychedelics. These are all things that my church was definitely like, would have been like, you're going to hell. Like you dealing with the devil. So how are you able to push through that like fear or the like programming to take the leap to be authentically you and let go of like the conditioning?
Yeah. I think what happened in my 30s, like I had made a lot of deals with the God of my understanding at that time that I was going to, betray myself, give up myself, comply if he would keep up his end of the bargain of what they had told me, which is if I had done all these things, God would bless me, protect the people I love, and take care of all the things. But in the year of my kids, I had twins. My first children are twins. There's another backstory about that, but we won't talk about that right now. But my kids were in their first year of life, and I was very close to my siblings' children. Because my siblings started having kids when I was 15, and so I was raised my siblings' kids. And my sister's middle child, Donovan, his dad was driving, and they were in a single car accident, and the car flipped over, and he died. And he was 9 years old. Everybody else got out the vehicle but him. He died on impact. And he was my heart. He was my baby. And I also had just had babies, right? My babies were still in their first year of life. And I remember at one point when I realized that I had to go away to graduate school and that Spirit was leading me to Philadelphia, I had this conversation with Spirit, with God of my understanding. And I said, I'm going to be obedient and go, but you have to keep all of my babies safe, because at that point, those were my children. And I was like, I can't be here to keep them safe. And so I need you to keep them safe. And I thought we had made this agreement that I was going to be faithful and go to Philadelphia for graduate school, and God was going to keep all my babies safe. And when my nephew died, I felt such betrayal by the God of my understanding that I was kind of like, fuck you. If you're not going to keep your word, then what are we even doing? And so that was the beginning of my decolonization and healing around essentially betraying the God of my understanding, because it became clear to me that God not only did not love me, did not like me, and really required my allegiance in a way that was going to be my death. And so I had to break trust. It became very clear to me it was either the God of my understanding or me. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm going to choose me, because there's no guarantees, even though they told me there were guarantees if I submitted to their rules and their ways of being. And so I think feeling that level of betrayal, what to me at that time I experienced as a betrayal by the God of my understanding, really helped loosen up the grip of my need to, especially as a very anxious person, follow these sets of rules so that I would be okay. I just realized there was no guarantees, actually. They couldn't protect you from life. And yet I wasn't living my full life, right? I was denying myself so much of my personhood and giving allegiance to a God and a system that actually didn't love me or see me as valuable in my own personhood. So yeah, that was, once that started happening, cracking open, I think it was easier and easier for me to betray these ideas that I realized were not actually things keeping me safe, but cages keeping me
I love
under
that.
control.
I think that's super. I mean, it's very aligned also with my experience, but I think people are confused sometimes when I talk about how I've gotten into spirituality, because it's similar in that it was just when my great grandmother died, the way her church acted was so left. She was such a big part of that church, and it was very apparent that the pastor was very jealous. And they tried to disrespect her in ways that I was just like, oh hell no, that was oh hell no. And then my grandmother was, a lot of the religious rules that I was following by really was because I wanted to make my grandmother proud. I didn't care about that church, but it was my grandmother. I loved her. She was my heart, my great grandmother. And I wanted her to be proud of me. So I wanted her to think, I was doing exactly how she wanted. And there was fear when after she died is when I came out, started being mass presenting. There was fear that I would lose that connection with her, but it only got stronger. And that's when I realized oh, the spirit thing is real. It's not all bullshit. There is some truth to it, but you know what I mean? It was I went hard to atheists, fuck God. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no God, there's no nothing, fuck y'all. But the way that my grandmother would show up in dreams, in feelings, in synchronicities with I would start seeing shit written on license plates that people would say stuff that I was just thinking 5 minutes, all these things opened up in such a crazy way that it was undeniable. It was she was making it clear no, the spirit part is real.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they will. Yes, and they will. Actually, Mata visited me twice without me knowing. There was one of my friends, she's Northern Cheyenne, and indigenous person, and she had 2 years in a row we were at a retreat, a women's retreat for when I was deep in the church, in leadership in church. And we were at a women's retreat together because we were leading this women's leadership group. And apparently the first year, Mudda came to visit me, and she didn't say anything to me. And she knew that Mudda came to visit me. And the second year, she finally was like, listen, we were rooming together. And she's like, listen, you have this ancestor that keeps coming. It's been 2 years now. Can I tell you what's going on? And I was like, oh, yes, tell me. And it was Mudda. She had been visiting me and trying to get my attention. And when I tell you that Mudda for a long time would go, anybody who was open, partially open, a portal, anything would be like, so you have this ancestor that is very loud. I'm like, yes, I know. She's been trying to get my attention. She would tell my business to everybody. And I was like, okay, right. I hear you. Please stop embarrassing me. But yeah, they are very persistent. Spirit and your ancestors will work overtime to get your attention.
Quick pause to thank Mantra Matcha and Severista Coffee for supporting Beats and Balance. Mantra Matcha gives you sustained energy, focus, and antioxidants without the crash. Severista is perfect if you love coffee but want less caffeine and fewer jitters. Use code BALANCE for 15% off Mantra Matcha and 25% off Severista Coffee. All right, back to the episode.
For me, it was my grandfather. My grandfather's like 6'5". And whenever I go into any like spiritual space, somebody would stop me and be like, there's a very big man. Like, there's a very big man around you. And immediately I'm like, Grandpa, damn. But I like, at that point, I was like, like there was so many coincidences that it was starting to get weird. But as soon as people started saying, yeah, there's a very big man around you, there's just an energy of a very big man. And I was just like, all right, that's undeniable. So yeah, I love that. I love people that have gone through similar experiences where it's like, you lose faith, but then you don't lose faith and you regain a new idea of how you feel like the world works and operates, and it kind of completely turns everything upside down. And for me, it's like, it's cyclical because like I had that whole experience after my grandmother died. She died when I was like 23, and then I had this whole like spiritual awakening, and I was super spiritual. Met my wife a month after our first date. She's told she has a year to live and she has cancer. And that became a new cycle of like spirit. All right, that's when the bargaining happened. If you keep this woman alive, I swear to God, like you have it. And it was like, it was miraculous in how it happened because we were married a month later. Her cancer started shrinking, like the tumor started shrinking in half, to the point where they changed her whole prognosis and was like, never mind, like you should live. And so when she did pass, like it was completely unexpected because we had been told she was a medical miracle. All these doctors were flying in from different countries looking at her. Her tumors were disappearing. So when she died, it was like it was another blow where I was like, fuck that. Like what do you mean? We done been through 2 years of all this spiritual whatever, watching all these miracles, feeling like all these miracles happen, and you gonna let me down like this? I was crushing. And really it was like the signs, like your spot. It was like I think that's part of the reason why we moved here, because it was like your spot, the Black.Bird.Rising thing. I have to see it every day walking my dogs. And it was always a reminder of like, that can't be a coincidence. And then I don't know if you know, at the park next door, they have that bench up that's like for calling dead loved ones. They put that up the day my wife died. So yeah. So I'm walking my dog, like the day my wife died, I'm walking my dog and I come across this, it's a huge, for people that don't know, it's a huge bench that has a payphone on it that says like for lost loved ones. It's an installation that they put up so that people could, have a fake phone call with somebody that they lost and passed. And they literally put that up the day my wife passed. And so it was like so many things that like I couldn't. Also my dog, my wife got me my dog for my birthday, like less than a month before she passed. And that the dog is like what's kept me alive with the suicide. Like I was like, fuck this, like I'm ready to go. And then it was like, no, like I got to take care of this little dog. Yep. So like it was like so many things.
Yep. Spirit will bring. I have my little dog too. I have my little like. I'm gonna keep you
go
alive.
Outside and
you gotta
walk
stay alive, dog.
Like you wouldn't see me if I didn't have these dogs. I would have just been in the house depressed. Like you wouldn't see me.
Right.
Yes. So yeah, just having this conversation.
Right. And I stay seeing you with those dogs. I'm gonna tell you, you faithful with them dogs. But nothing else. Listen, you like
the blizzard.
I gotta watch these dogs. I'm like, rain, snow, sleet, it don't matter. You be out there with them dogs.
Yo,
like,
those are my children. Like and it's my connection to my wife. Like she literally got me that dog for my birthday, October 8th. She passed November 2nd. And if it wasn't for those dogs, I would not be here. Like I wouldn't. I everybody in my family pretty much that I love has now passed. I got more people on the other side than I have over here. And for me, it was like, why am I still here then? Like, why'd y'all leave? It wasn't like a sadness of like, there's death and you're
Right.
gone. It was like, why did y'all leave me here? Like, what am I here for?
Right.
And that was a really fucked up thing to sit with.
Right.
And it was literally like seeing your spot every day. I walk the dogs, walk past, like, this can't be a coincidence. Like the Black.Bird, the conversations I'd have, and it would always like pop into my head. Like my wife, see, like you're still on a path. It was like what I was feeling. But for me, it was really hard to like be like,
Right.
how? You know what I mean? Like what I'm here in the middle of nowhere. I don't know anybody in Philly anymore. I stopped talking to most people in my family.
Like,
So
what
it
am
was
I
just
doing
like
here?
really like 0 point.
Right.
But yeah, having this conversation is a
Right.
reminder of like, damn, like really everything is connected and all the loss and all the grief hasn't been for nothing. When I started this podcast, it was
Yeah.
really like I was in deep isolation and something was like, you have to start talking to people or you're going to lose your mind. And something literally was like, do a podcast. I would have never, I don't like talk. Like I'm a behind the scenes type of person. I'm not a, I'm not a
Yes.
like attention leader.
Me too. I'm technically a behind the scenes person too. I honestly would be so happy just to be left alone. But Spirit's like, nah, that's not going to be your portion. I'm like, why do you keep putting me in community things? I just want to be like in my little corner, be left alone. Spirit's like, that's not for you. But you're right. Being isolated will make you, impair your mental well-being, because that's why they do that in incarceration. Like they put them in solitary confinement because it's a form of torture. Like, and so, yeah, you're right when you were like, no, I got to get out of solitary confinement.
It was real. But like everybody that I've talked to since then, like through this podcast, has been on such like a similar journey. So just like, it is super affirming. Yeah, it's been super affirming.
People. Isn't that so beautiful with Spirit's like, we're going to help you make a container so that your people can come to you. Like, because otherwise you'll never find them.
Because I like to be alone. I'm a fan of being a hermit. But no, it's been super, super affirming. So just thank you again for that. But anyway, we'll move on to the next question. I don't want to take up too much time.
Well, no, I love hearing your stories. I was like, listen, let's keep talking about your stories.
But I just love when things resonate and when people feel aligned. Because I often get stuck, and I think a lot of people have a similar feeling of feeling like you're in it alone, or like you're the only one that's going through these things, the only one that's having these feelings. And I talk to other people and they're like, oh no, I've been there. And it's like, all right, cool. Like there is a after this. You know what I mean? Like it's hard when you're in it to see the other side.
Right. Well, there's a through this, and like it's going to change you, but also like you're not the first person in the world to experience this. Like it's not like you did something wrong, because it is very much part of the Western Christian narrative to be like, these things are happening.
I'm like sitting here like, did I, if I, like, do I have an evil eye on me? Did I do something?
Who cursed me? It's like, boo, you're living a human experience. Yeah. Like, this is the shit. This is the shit of the human experience. Why did our souls choose to come down now? I always ask. Like this?
I think something is coming though. I think I fully believe, because I've felt like tired my whole life, like Benjamin Button type, like just like an old kid.
Yo.
And I'm like, I don't think I would choose.
I say Benjamin Button all the time. I'm like, I was in my Benjamin Button life over here, just been old my whole life, tired, annoyed. That's why I tell you, I feel like it's generational. Like, this is not just our shit. I do feel like us millennial babies are like, we are the ones that are rectifying the bill, the arrears. Like, we're the ones who's come to be like, this shit stops with us.
No, 100%. I call it karma kids. Anyway. And it is like, when you were saying that, I was like, yeah, I felt that. And that's what I'm like, this year is my sabbatical year after my wife passed. I quit my job last February because they were on some fuck shit. And I haven't done anything since. And it's so uncomfortable for me, because I'm also a person that's very much like I'm a Virgo stellium. Like, I like to be doing, I like to be moving, I like to be organizing. I'm very behind the scenes. Like, I love supporting people and making shit happen. So to sit still like this for this year has been difficult, but I think also like super needed and super like nourishing to my soul, and like learning how to sit with myself and my energy and figuring out who I am. So yeah, everything you said has super resonated with me and the journey that I'm on. So I appreciate that. But yeah, we're going to switch the conversation over a little bit, get to something lighter.
Yeah, let's go. Let's try something lighter. Let's see
your artwork, because you also do art. And so let's talk a little bit about like how art functions in your life. Do you have any rituals around that, or what does art mean for you?
Mm, yeah. It's so interesting because I have been a creative and my whole life, but I did not think I had earned the title artist. I was like, that's something other people do. I do this. I am art. I was like, I am artistic, but I'm not an artist. Meanwhile, my whole life revolves around making art, experiencing art, consuming art, talking about art.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I'm not an artist, right? So I think it's really funny I think a lot of times that's happened to me where I'm like, I'm not this thing. And everybody's like, I'm like, I'm not an entrepreneur. And everybody's like, tell me about all the businesses that you've started and run. And I'm like, oh, damn, I guess I am an
Imposter syndrome is so
entrepreneur.
real.
Yo,
No, it's real.
I'm over it, honestly. Yeah. So when I got to a place in my life where I wasn't using all of my creativity to survive, I found out that actually there was this whole other channel, psilocybin really, was like, there's actually this whole other channel of like survival can look lots of different ways, is what I'm saying. And part of what I was starting to like wanting to honor more was the way in which art was keeping me alive, like creating art, engaging with art was a big part of what was keeping me like on Earth side. And I think I didn't take myself seriously. I didn't take my artistic practice seriously. And I think Spirit was really inviting me to like, take this shit seriously. Part of what you're here to do is to create and to be in conversation as an artist. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'll take my ideas and my thoughts seriously around what does it mean, like being an artist. So I've always used art in my spiritual practices, always, my whole life. But I just thought it was like something cute, doodly. I don't know. I just didn't take it seriously. And so I started taking myself more seriously as an artist. And I got so much affirmation. Spirit's quick. When you're on, like I said, when you're on the path that Spirit wants you to be on, Spirit's like, let me quickly affirm you so that you will keep going. Because otherwise, God help you if you have to fight for this. And so I got a lot of affirmation and community and support from other Black trans artists, queer artists, as like, I see you as an artist. I got into this program that I thought was like 30, people had applied to this artist retreat at then Acorn Center that is now closed, but this beautiful Black reparative like a retreat space in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta. And I went there as a Black trans artist for this artist retreat friend. Like I was like over Juneteenth, I was like, am I an artist? Still being like, am I an artist? After I got into like I won this spot, this retreat anyways. And I think I didn't have a home for my art to live in. And that's part of what Black.Bird.Rising was for me, was to try to make a home for all the pieces of me that didn't feel like I had a place in my life or a place to live. And so that's why like the herbalism stuff is there, because I grew up in a family of herbalists and I didn't feel like there was a place for me to hold that. That's why the spiritual things are there, like, the botanica and the body work, all those things. I didn't have a home for that. And that's why my art is there. Like pretty much all the art in BBR is my art. Yeah. Except for like one piece, I think. That's not mine. Because I wanted to have an art show and I applied twice to Leeway Foundation and they were like, we like your concept, but we don't think that you can pull this off. We feel like you're new. Like I was like, literally, because 0 to 100, right? I was like, I guess I'm an artist now. So I started making art. I was like, I'm an art show.
Why not?
That's it. And everyone's like, they're like, have you ever, they literally wrote in the comments, we believe her concept, it's good. We don't think that they can pull this off. And I was, because they're like, who are you? Like, where did you come from? You think you just started making art yesterday? You can have an art show? And I'm like, yeah, Spirit gave me a fully formed art show. So I'm just going to do it. So Leeway has twice turned me down. So I'm still going to have my art show. But yeah, I realized that being an artist was actually a part of me that felt not productive, not useful to capitalism, and not useful to anybody actually, except outside of myself. And so in my Christian upbringing, especially as a femme-bodied person, my whole goal in life is to be useful to people and to be of service. And being an artist felt selfish, actually. Like, you're going to do this thing because you like it for you. But I finally realized that, like, that's exactly why I should be an artist. Yeah. It's because it's not useful. It's actually my birthright to be a creative force for good in the world and to create the world I want to see. And my story mattered. My perspective matters. And so as I leaned more into that and got affirmation around that and community around that, and the more I've been able to say, yes, I am an artist. My art practice is what helps keep me alive. It's my birthright. I remember the day my family saw one of my pieces. was actually a piece that's at BBR. And my mom saw it and she's like, you did that? I was like, yeah, I did that. And she's like, you just thought of it yourself and you did that. I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, I guess you are an artist. And I was like, yeah, I guess I am. Like, so I think it surprised a lot of people who've known me for a long time to be like, that I'm taking myself so seriously as an artist, even though I've been an artist my whole life.
I think that's super real. My grandfather was an art professor. And so, for me, it was just like, well, if you're not on that level, then why bother? So I would never have ever referred to myself as an artist. And then I got a reading with somebody and they're like, you're meant to do art. And I was like, the fuck you talking about? Like, what you mean?
Right.
You must be wrong.
I think that's like the gimmick, right? Of like these institutionalized, colonized frameworks being like, we're the ones who get to say what is legitimate and what is worthy of time investment. But like, meanwhile, our whole community, all of our Black Indigenous communities, they're like, that was just part of our life. Like, we were creative people who, like, we had beading and we did, but like, it wasn't something that was set apart in this, like, this is the thing that we're lifting up as valid and everything else is like not real. Like, we were all folk artists and we made things beautiful because our lives were worthy of beauty. We would make a meal, and the meal would be beautiful. We would dance and the dance would be beautiful. Like, we would adorn ourselves and and all of our life was something worthy of beauty. And I think the way in which that has been gatekept. Yeah, that's the word. I think it's only in service of keeping the powers of oppression and control exactly where they are, where they get to be the ones who decide what is valuable. And so I decided to be like, no, all of my story, everything I think, everything I want to create is valuable. Like, you don't get to gatekeep me from myself, from my own creative force.
That's what's happening, though. That's like the most depressing part of the world to me, I think, is that a lot of people don't realize that their whole life they're being controlled by the powers that be, just because they want to suck out your productivity and your resources and your energy.
Yeah. This shit is taking you away from things that you could be doing for capitalism. like everything I'm doing right now is actually so anti-capitalist, not because I don't pay my rent and I don't worry about paying my taxes or overhead. It's because I am not doing something that is productive. I am not doing things that help keep commerce going. Like, literally, like, people are like, what is this business you have? I'm like, it's not really a business. What are you selling? I'm not really selling. Why are you here? Like, I have an MBA. I understand how business plans work. Like, I understand that I am doing what this system would call crazy, but I've decided that I don't care anymore, because to be sane in an insane system.
No, that's real.
It's not a goal. It's not a goal.
I struggle with that myself. I'm constantly just like, I don't want to be in business, but I need to pay rent. I need to make money. And it's the constant struggle of like, well, how do I maintain life in a capitalist society, but also feel like I'm not selling my soul or my morals? And it's a struggle. It's a constant everyday struggle. And so I love to see when people are successful with that, because it gives me hope that I can also attain that. Like, I'm sitting here all the time just like, fuck, like, how do I live without ever having to work for anybody again? But also, like, I don't want to be a product. I don't want to create products. I want to create experiences where people can be themselves and feel like they are living an authentic life. And I don't need you to pay me for that. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? But it's like the world that we live in is like, well, if you don't attach value to it, if you're not getting paid for it, then what are you doing?
What is the... Yeah. And you know what? I want to be careful not to be like, oh yeah, this thing that I'm doing is a success. I think in terms of capitalism, I'm failing. I am failing pretty badly, actually, like pretty boldly. I'm failing a lot. Like, ask my landlord. I'm failing. Ask a lot of people, like, ask my bank account, my business bank account. I'm failing. According to capitalism, this is a bust. This failed. And you know what? It was never... Spirit told me the other day when I was like getting caught up in my MBA head of like, I'm not, I started this thing as an agreement with Spirit, and then I went off to try to do it the way I thought, this system tells me to do it to be successful. Right. And it was really painful doing it that way. And Spirit was like, why are you trying to do something according to these rules? Like, this thing was never even about that, period. Like, when I applied for my lease, I had $25 in my bank business account. And I submitted my lease application with $25 in my account, and they were like, write down how much money is in your bank account. And Spirit told me, write down $10,000. And I was like, that's crazy. I don't have $10,000. I'll write down $9,000. This is my compromise with spirit on my lease application. I will write down $9,000. And then the people said, great, thanks for your application. Show us the proof of the $9,000 in your bank account. And I obviously didn't have the proof. And I said, Spirit, what now? Why are we always doing knuck if you buck? Right? And Spirit was like, okay. And I sent out my little 2-pager, 3-pager that I wrote in 24 hours, like business plan to my community. And in 24 hours, like in 2 days, maybe 48 hours, I had $10,000 in my bank account. Right. So this is how this thing even started for me being in that space. You hear me? And I have been ever since trying to make it work in the nonprofit model, the for-profit model, and it never works. And so we're still here because Spirit has decided that we're still going to be there. But according to everybody else's metrics, I'm sure they're like, this is a failing business. And you know what? Like, okay, but we're still there. So yeah. No. I just want to be clear about that. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm doing this thing right. I figured out a hack for capitalism because capitalism is monopoly. And even if you don't want to play monopoly, you want to play a different game and not capitalism, you're still on the monopoly board. So that means you still pass Park Place and had to pay that tax. You still pass go. You can still end up in jail. Like these rules still apply. There will be consequences. The consequences of monopoly still apply to you. But you're just trying to play a different game on the board. And so that means it's a little bit dicey. Yeah. And it's dicey. It's dicey. And the anxiety does not like that. You know, the mental health doesn't like the precariousness of trying to play a different game on Monopoly's board. But that's the only way I can survive, I think, and do this vision justice. Also for me, because I'm in that spot right now where my mind and my soul are at odds, and it's just like something's like, no, keep going, you're gonna be all right. And the other part of me is like, man, if you don't provide some physical proof that I'm gonna be able to pay my, like, you know what I mean, like But then the shit like that has happened where like there was a time where I was like behind on my rent, and I was like, I don't know where money's coming from, and then boom, like $25,000 popped out. A check that I was supposed to have gotten a long time ago that I just given up on for insurance. And it just like right when, and also my landlords were assholes. And I feel like every time somebody's a dick to me, like they get it and I get like a come up because then like they put me in for some like eviction release fund, paid off the rent. I didn't have to use the $25,000 to pay the back rent. And I know they were pissed because they thought they were going to get me out and evicted. And it was like, yeah, nah, I got the money now for the for the rest of the year. But you covered that little $3,000. Listen, and that's how spirit will do things. And according to the system, that is foolishness. That's madness. It is madness. To live like that is mad. To live like how you and I are living is madness according to the system. And guess what? I'm just embrace it. I said 2026, call me mad. I'm mad. I'm Guyanese. I'm mad. Okay? So I'm crazy. I'm mad. Fine. But guess what? What you're doing is insanity too. Like the people who are trying to like still get up and play the game, like the game is not literally about to go up in flames, and they have no backup option. I'm like, bruh, you do know this thing is going down, right? But you want me to keep storing up treasures here? Like, it's not about to be over.
In the back of my mind, nah, I think all this stuff is about to explode anyway. But
it is. It's about. I said, are we still paying our taxes, y'all, to this government that wants to kill us? Are we still trying to arm them and fund them? Are we just checking in? Oh, we are?
That's a whole other conversation, the lack of organization. But anyway, yeah, I 100% agree. And that's, I think, what Spirit has been telling me too, is like, oh, you about to be out of here. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, this world is over. So if we want to be in a different world, I think we have to start living by some different rules. But it is very precarious when this system is still very much has some teeth on it, you know? And we're seeing in Minneapolis and all over the world, we're seeing when people are standing up and being like, I'm not going to play this game with you anymore. The systems of oppression are not going to take that line down. They're not going to be like, okay, cool, go ahead and go. They're like, nah.
Yeah, we are at the brink, I think, of either civil war or some type of revolution, or there's going to be some type of like natural disaster that's going to shake everything up. But one way or the other, things, I think, we're headed for a major turn. I feel it deeply in my soul.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're in the turning, actually. I think we're already in. I think we're, you know how, exactly. We're in that in between the middle passage. Jesus. The middle passage. Listen, and not everybody made it through the middle passage. Some people decided to be like, guess what? This is not for me. I'm going to go ahead and just jump up off the ship. And some people are choosing to do that. And I respect, we can talk about it another day. As a person who lives with suicide ideation, for some people, it's like they didn't want to make it through the middle passage. Yeah. I get it. But we are in the middle passage, and on the other side is a new world. And so I just think that like we have to think about, how did people make it through? How did our ancestors make it through the middle passage? How? Because us who are here, we're the ones, our ancestors
100%.
survived the middle
It
passage.
makes me think of like
How did
Harriet,
they
like
do
you
it?
said, like she was getting those
How?
spiritual insights and following. Like I think every time I think like I'm crazy or I feel like I'm gonna, like I think back to literally Harriet Tubman, and I'm like, she hit her, or she didn't hit her head, she got her head smashed in, but then was having those spiritual
Mhm.
downloads that literally created the Underground Railroad. So I'm sitting here like, I can't think I'm crazy when there's proof. Like, look what this woman did.
Yes. And you know what? I think Harriet's coming back now to really teach us is like, I think what we're supposed to be stewarding in our generation is also like the humanizing Harriet, because there was so much grief that she had to go through. Like she went back she had to do this alone. First of all, the first time alone, just her in spirit. Then she went back and some people were like, nah, I'm good. Like I am good on the plantation.
And I'm
And
a
not only
snitch on
that,
you.
I'm trying to out you to get you in trouble. Right, you're not gonna mess up my bag. Like, and there were people that also came along with her, and then halfway through were like, nah, I can't do this. And she had to be like, listen, okay, but like you're not about to blow up my spot. And I just think that like there was Harriet really, I think she is the blueprint. She's the blueprint, period. And also like sis, it cost us something. It was not an easy road. It was not an easy road, but that's the legacy that we inherited. So we're in the turning. I don't know, friend, where this is going to go, but I think it's really up to us where it does go.
Deeply.
It is
I
up
think
to
it's
us.
up to us and everybody else that's on the same wavelength to start building the world we want to see now. Like that's the way I'm just like, I can't focus on the doom and gloom of what's going on. The only thing I can be focusing on is like, what are we rebuilding after? Because I know everything is collapsing. I know this is an end. We're dealing with the fucking death rolls of patriarchy and white supremacy, and these folks are not going to go out without a fight. But in my mind, the war has already been won. You know what I mean? Like this is the way in which I have like premonitions. It's like, so if I could see the future, I mean, shit already happened. I mean, we good, we done. I just see this buckle in and sit through this little storm we in right now.
And you know what? You know why they're fighting even harder? Because they know that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how many times have we been in these battles? And one of my Tani, who's at BBR, was talking to me about the Maroons and how like some of them they made deals with the British, because they were like, the British were like, listen, if you stay over there, don't leave nobody else out. The owners were like, if you don't leave anybody else out, the enslavers, we'll leave you alone. We won't mess with you. But the thing is that the only reason why they try to strike deals with you is because they know they could actually lose, right? And so we just gotta stop making deals with our oppressors. We just gotta be like, actually, fuck no, we want everything. We want it all. We're not gonna strike no deals with you where we be over here, but you can still keep doing shit to our people over here. Nah, we taking everything. We leaving. What did Denzel say? I'm leaving here with something. Like you're not about to. We can't strike deals with them anymore. They're fighting this hard because they're losing. They're on their way out, and they're trying to like lock this shit down, which lets me know that like they're scared. They're scared, and they should
fear. Be. And it's true, and I think that's something to remind people is that like, yeah, when things feel rough and it looks like we're on the losing side, I can't help but always remember, one, we have the majority always, and two, they wouldn't be fighting this hard, like you said, if they weren't terrified. And three, all these folks like 70, 80 years old, like this is we're watching narcissistic collapse. Like they know that their lives are about to be over, and they try to take everybody out with them. But
yep.
Yeah.
This is their swan song. This is them. They're like, yeah, we're about to be done. Like, who can we take? They want to take as many of us with them.
So I'm like, I'm out these streets. My background, like I used to be heavy into political organizing and, organizing the protests. And after the one in the Bronx where everybody was getting kettled in, and I was like, fuck this. This is this is not the way we fighting anymore. Enough Black people have been beaten and thrown on the streets. Like it's time to strategize about the future, let these white kids sit on the front lines and fight the war. But for us and my people, it's about creating paradise and creating sanctuary to get through this period, and then like planning on how we're going to recreate the world when it's over. And I firmly believe that. Yep. And so that's why, again, I love spaces like yours, because I feel like that's the movement that we're heading in, is first like retreat, rest, recovery. Yeah, like we've been through so much trauma. We need to just sit still, which is like, I feel like what I'm going through personally now. But I think like everything is like, personal. what is it, the macro or the micro is macro, whatever. What's up is down. Person, yeah,
Yes, I
like
know what you mean. I know exactly
what's
what you
going on
mean.
in my life is
Yes,
going on in the
and it's
world.
true.
Yeah,
Our
so
lives
everything
are
is connected
reflecting
in a
that.
way.
Yes, everything is a microcosm of the
100%.
collective. Like that's what we are, and I do think there's every last one of us, especially Black, queer, and trans people, when we're like, actually, what we're going to do is go ahead and be about our lives and making the world that we want to be, because our ancestors have been through too many worlds ending. But whose world is
Not
ending?
ours.
You know what I'm saying? Not my world, because my world is not dependent
I'm happy
on
to
this
wait for it
system.
to end.
Your world might be ending, but that
Facts.
doesn't mean that my world is ending. And so I think that like they want us to continue to try to prop up their way of living, but we're the ones that make the whole thing. We're the thing that gets ground up in the cogs, and we just got to stop laying down, and let our lives be the fodder for this fever dream,
100%.
this white supremacist fever dream that they have us in. So I'm real good.
100%.
Like my world is not going to
the same
end.
way I deal with narcissism, because that's how I see white supremacy and colonialism. It's just like a societal version of narcissism, and the way you deal with a narcissist is you greystone and you ignore them and you act like they don't exist, and then they have no power. It's just like that's just how I'm living my life. And so yeah, like at
They're
all.
not that relevant. I do think that yes, they have the power to. They do have the power. They do have power, but I'm not going to give them any more power than they already have. I'm not going to give them the power of my imagination.
It's just where I'm at. It's just like, man.
We just got to keep an eye on them so that we can be like, okay, I see you trying to do it. Okay, let me shore up over here because you getting crazy
I parked
over
right
here.
in Germantown and was like, all right, I'm surrounded. I got a buffer around me. I don't have to see no white people if I don't.
That's how I feel too. That's how I feel. That's why I'm in Germantown too. I was like, I need to be with my people. And that's what we're doing at Black.Bird Rising. Like our Healing Justice Collective is about like, how do we make sure that like we're creating a life where we're actually compete, like people in our collective are getting trained on all kinds of skill sets. We know we're getting tapped into giving out food once or twice a month. Like we're trying to make sure that like we're shored up here, that our pod can guide each other's back. We know what's going on in each other's lives. People got skills and resources to share, and we know how to be in community with each other because this is all we got is each other. And so I'm trying to train my kids to see the world that way too. Like you got to know your people, and you got to be able to call your people. Like, and they got to know that they can call you. Like, what's up? Because nobody's coming to save us, right? But us. So
that's a fact. We are all we got. So yeah, on that note, I think that's a good note to wrap up. But let's just one time, if you have any events that are coming up, I know you guys do the fresh produce distribution, which you just mentioned. And then you have like a bunch of other events, tarot and Reiki and acupuncture and all those things. So you want to tell people?
Yes. Actually, so we have a couple mutual aid projects happening twice a month. We give out second and fourth Saturday of the month, but we're trying to do that on a regular schedule. But free produce and often eggs and free herbal distro at our spot in partnership with Bunny Hop Philadelphia, but also we have the People's Medicine Cabinet, which is our herbal mutual aid that we offer free herbs and tinctures for Black Philadelphians. We also have a healers in residence right now in Yossi with Oshun's Palace, who's doing a lot of womb care, doula care, postpartum, abortion, perimenopause, all that kind of stuff. Like very cute, very sweet, not even cute, but she is very cute, but very sweet, nourishing medicine that's in this space available to be booked. Also, Tani Simone, who does tarot and astrology readings and spiritual supports, makes a lot of our baths and products there. And then, as I said, I do Reiki, liberation Reiki, also psilocybin and ketamine guided medicine sessions, and Hape as well.
What's Hape? Wait, go on.
But anyways,
I don't know what it is myself, so let me know.
Real quick, Hape. Okay, yeah, Hape. Hape is an indigenous medicine where they take tobacco. I don't know why the word is going out of my mind right now, but like the ashes, and they mix with other like herbal medicines, plants, and it's like a powder, and you ingest it through your nasal cavities, and it's medicine to heal the heart and the mind. There was actually a Hape ceremony the other day at Bartram's Garden where two medicine men from South America came, and that hape ceremony was whew. But anyways, yes, I do hape for people in Reiki, but also in medicine work. So I want to do more of that too, sitting with people in medicine, especially for Black, queer, and trans people who have a lot of barriers to access to that, and a lot of obviously internalized and externalized stigmas. And yeah, so that's all available. But you can always check out our Instagram or our website where we'll be sharing about what's happening this month. But for Black History Month, we are by appointment only so that we can rest more. So people can just hit us up our DMs, be like, I want to come through, and we'll meet up with you.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Happy
Black History Month, by the way.
Yes, my favorite month of the year, except for the cold, but that's all right. Yeah, thank you so much for being on here and doing all the amazing work that you guys are doing. I'm going to come by and check out the hape stuff. Also, thank you for being my constant supplier of the charcoal and the frankincense. Everybody in Philadelphia, make sure you head over to Black.Bird.Rising and get your spirit straight. They're always doing good stuff over there, and I'm super excited that you all are my neighbors. Yeah, and I didn't get evicted, so I'm still here.
No, we didn't get evicted either, so we're also still there.
But yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll be back next Thursday. This is not our last episode for the season. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back. And thank you so much for being on here, and I'll see you soon, and you'll see my dogs. And yeah, we out here. Shout out Germantown.
Of course. I love it.
Our vibes stay sacred. Our roots run deep.